Well, we'll begin a last session to wrap up Envision here. Thank first our panelists that have joined us today. We'll put some questions out to them, but I think to start with, Joel, if you wouldn't mind starting to introduce yourself, introduce your company, maybe a little bit about what the company size is, your end users, and maybe your primary business unit. We'll just roll down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoa, that's loud. Yeah, so we're Vector Windows based out of Fergus Falls. We've got 2 locations, both in Fergus Falls. Been there for about 12 years, currently serving in leading the technology, cybersecurity, and physical security operations there. Got about 100 and, it varies seasonally, but about 160 end users.
Thanks, Joel. Jason?
All right. Thanks, guys. This is pretty scary up here. Jay being a veteran, so he'll keep us in check. Jason LeZalla. I'm with Microbiologics, Inc. I've been with the company about 2.5 years. IT operations manager there. We have about 270 users. However, about 500 computing devices based on the instrumentation and things that we have with the biomaterials and the life sciences equipment that we have. Thank you.
Thanks. John?
Yep, John Artz. I'm in the IT department with KLJ. We're a civil engineering company. Headcount is just about 600, spread across 26 different offices.
Jay, do you want to introduce yourself again?
Hi, whoever wasn't here this morning. My name is Jay Tambornino. I'm with the Minnesota Bankers Association. I'm going to shock you. We have 17 people in our office. But that's not why I'm here. I'm actually here kind of on behalf of all the banks in Minnesota because that's my main role is to help community banks across the state.
Well, first off, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon. We've received feedback from our customers in previous Envision conferences that the Q&A with peers is really important. You know, a technology conference is about networking, right? So introducing yourself to somebody that you don't know, talking to a colleague or another vertical about what they're doing. So we're going to try to continue that this afternoon. We want to kind of focus on 2 topics. Again, one of them is going to be around AI. The second area is going to be around security. And so kind of pre-plan a few questions here. Let each one of you kind of respond based on your organization, your thoughts, your strategy, and we'll just go with that. So let's start, Joel, with you, if you don't mind, at the end there. Kind of thinking about scoring the organization today in a situation of like 1 to 100. Where do you feel your organization is at with the adoption or use of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I'd probably put us somewhere between 15 and 20%. And that's kind of a comfortable area. We're using it primarily on an individual basis for composition, communications, things like that, things that it's really good at and things where it can save us a lot of time. We have a few people on my team as well that are using it for development, and it's really sped up that process. One user in particular, anytime there's any sort of development project, he's back and forth with his friend ChatGPT. So and leveraging that has really increased our speed on those types of projects.
Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. We're about at the same, I would gauge us. We're using it primarily just for the end users, like you said. Our marketing department is starting to take advantage of some Adobe AI tools to help them with their marketing campaigns and so on and so forth. In IT, we are the only folks in IT that or in the company that are using Copilot, just so we can kind of understand it and kind of figure it out, and so that we can support it and better equip our end users with that. But then we're also looking at if we're not using EDI for order entries or for order automation, we're also looking at our customer service department to try and automate some of their order entry. So we're looking at some third-party products for that. The other portion of that too is we're really looking at a data cleansing operation before we transition files and stuff, all that stuff out to SharePoint, to where it should be consumable via AI as well, and OneDrive obviously too, making the transition to that.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I'd say we're probably at that 15 to 20% mark too. Kind of slowly rolling into this AI environment. It's been a fast-changing environment. I'd say IT services, we're trying to understand it along with our end users at the same time. We're primarily using it for, writing, helping with job descriptions, sharpening emails, kind of letting it organically grow within the company and getting feedback. We do have a pilot group set up that we have monthly meetings with to kind of get feedback. What are they seeing? What are they using it for? And then growing from there. So, yeah.
I can't say that it's even 15% in banks. It really depends on maybe the IT structure of the bank and what's available. If you look at, breaking it down by subsection of the bank, HR will use it for writing. Marketing will try to use it as much as they possibly can to get ideas. I'd like to see it more in maybe the cyber fraud region to see how we can leverage it more, but it's really not very big in banks yet. Everybody's really scared about pulling the trigger on anything.
What do you guys see as possible limitations that you're running into now, or maybe your end users that are using the AI tools? What are some of the limitations, and are they being imposed by you organically within the organization, or is it an understanding of the tool set? So let's go the other way. John, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I think one of the limitations is how fast it's changing. Our environment right now, it's within our own tenant. We do have a organization corporate AI policy that kind of sets guardrails for appropriate use and who gets a license to use. So we use Copilot. It's a small sample set of people, like I said before, but we can't really manage personal use of ChatGPT or all the other various AIs out there. But what we can manage is within our own organization. So it's kind of a back and forth type of an operation. But I think the biggest thing is just that education, that making sure our content stays within our own tools that we own, that we use with Copilot. So I think that's probably one of the things that if there is a limitation, is this is what it's intended for internal use only. And if we give folks the opportunity to use, ChatGPT. We did a search on our survey within our environment to see how many people use some form of AI, and it's interesting. There's quite a few, more than what we thought. Some have a paid version of ChatGPT. So those are the folks that we're trying to harness and that information. What are you using it for? What are you seeing? So it's kind of just that monthly meeting, understanding those limitations of, okay, keep our content within our own tools.
Jason?
Yeah, sure. We went the same route. The first thing that we wanted to do was back it by policy. So we formed a digital innovations committee, AI specific focused, so we could write that policy and deploy it to the end users, just to make sure we set the guardrails and to make sure that our end users were not, that they're very clear of what data they can and cannot put into a chatbot to protect our intellectual property and whatnot. Yeah, I guess that's what I can say.
Thanks. Joel?
Yeah, the limitations that we have with AI right now are primarily self-imposed. We're kind of on that threshold of being very reluctant to start using AI anywhere where proprietary or sensitive data is concerned. And it's going to be a while before we look to break that pattern. The other limitation is really, in our industry, we're tied to some more discrete software that's really designed for our industry, and the adoption in some of those applications is just going to be a lot longer road than it is in some larger ERPs and things.
Jay, this morning you talked a little bit about policy, right? Yep. And we heard that here. So if you want to touch on that piece a little bit again, I think it would be good.
No, I think you hit it right on the head. You need to establish what the guardrails are. We're going to use it for this. Have it clearly written. Everybody signs off on it. Really, it's just a matter of knowing what questions are there, anticipating the questions that they're going to be asking, and then they're going to throw you for a curve all the time, trying to grade that information and then digging down into that even further. So as long as you have a clear understanding, this is allowed, this isn't allowed, and then have ramifications afterwards, going, hey, you're not allowed to use this anymore because you keep asking it this. And you have to be able to prove it through the log files going, we have a clean record of everything that you've ever done.
Yeah.
So that's the big piece.
Well, that's a great lead-in, because the next question I was going to ask is, how fearful or concerned, maybe is the better word, are you gentlemen with not knowing that some of your staff is trying to do something with AI, whether that be with your corporate data or not? So any one of the three of you want to touch that one?
I'll start. Yeah, I don't sleep very well at night. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is a concern, but honestly, there's really not much we can do about it other than educate our end users and just make sure we back it with policy, and do routine checks is all as I can say, and continued education and whatnot. Everybody's trying to figure it out, really, what to do. In their personal lives, as well as enhancing their business life. As well as trying to improve business processes. And create efficiencies and automations and all that kind of stuff. So, on one hand, I want to encourage people to try and figure it out and use it, but just use the right data. Do not dump anything out there that you're not supposed to do.
Jay, would you mind touching again? This morning you talked about knowing your data, knowing where it's at, knowing your data, and then the classifying of the data and information governance, data loss protection,
Yep.
big thing. But do you want to touch on that a little more?
Sure. As you're setting up AI, you can actually set it up to, your shared file or your OneDrive and everything. And if you're bumping everything out there, it is free reign. I mean, you have to be able to say, no, this data is off limit. This is locked down. We have to have this. I think part of the biggest problem as we keep collecting years and years and years of data out on servers, everybody just keeps putting it out there, creating folders. You have to have the security controls in place to lock down that data so that you can, at the flip of a switch, go, that's offline. No, nobody can see this. No applications can see this. For sure, AI is not going to be able to parse that information to look for data within it. Because if you don't do that, and somebody Google or just does a search for, payroll tax records from your CEO, it will find them. So, yeah, the hard part is we've kind of preached about classifying your data from day one, from years and years, especially in the banking world, to know where your data is as it's sitting at rest in backup, making sure that you have all the security controls in place to protect it. This is why. And if you have all that in place, you're 3 steps closer to being able to actually deploy AI successfully. If you don't have it in place, do not even attempt to put AI in place until you know where that data lives.
Thanks, Jay. Joel, John, anything to add in before we maybe move on?
Yeah, I would just add to that, when you talk about, are you worried about employees? I would say AI is probably as good and healthy as the person behind the keyboard. I think we should probably trust all of our folks within the organization.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah. Trust but verify, right? So I think that's just an understanding and that continued communication and doing the prerequisites of understanding what data we have out there and what can be accessed with AI and where is something going to be exposed. So just sharpening that and being transparent with those folks that are in that. We have a small group of people that are using it today, so it's a somewhat of a managed environment. So that's kind of our take on that.
Not much to add other than what's already been said here. But for us, it's about training those end users. We have a pretty responsible user base, I like to think. Training them, backing it up with policy. But there's obviously, if somebody's doing something on their phone or doing, there's only so much we can look after. So it's really about educating, just like with everything else. They're kind of our front lines, our users. So.
I'd like to just add that data classification is a big thing. You really got to know your data, and that can be a very intensive operation. So if you haven't started, I would start now. just to going off of your guys' points. That way you can classify and tag your data. And then you can put in, automation and controls to prevent that data from getting outside the organization, as long as you go through that exercise too.
Not an easy task, but a required task. I'm interested in hearing, do you have different user groups or departments that are really asking to use AI to where you're saying, not right now? So again, I just open it up for anybody. Is there any groups that kind of surprised you that you thought, why are they asking about it?
Yeah, actually, our manufacturing operations are really kind of champing at the bit it's primarily an understanding question at this point in time. They hear AI and they think, oh, well, we can use that for this and that, and there's kind of a lack of understanding what the application is. But there is a desire amongst our least savvy users to want to use it as quickly as possible for things like production scheduling and other large data sets that we have to parse on a regular basis that's critical to our operations. And the answer thus far has just been, well, we'll see. We'll see what's available in the future, and we'll see where we can kind of integrate this. But I'm kind of a horrible technology leader, because I say, we're going to use technology to enhance our processes. We are not interested in being in the bleeding edge of technology. We're interested in being in the bleeding edge of manufacturing quality windows and doors, and we're going to use technology to enhance that where we can. But let's take things where we have good processes today, and let's see if we can use AI or other technologies to help bolster that.
Anybody else have any unique user groups that have asked?
We made it a requirement to go through the committee if they had any AI requests, and we have not received any to date. Meaning using AI with company data, per se.
Kind of a vetting process then.
Correct.
Jay, you were going to respond?
Well, I was just going to add, I have departments and banks that I would like to see use it more, and they just kind of won't. Compliance is the main one. I think it's going to make life a whole lot easier for compliance if we can figure out how to make it work. The other areas of the bank, not so much. I mean, marketing always is going to try to do it. I mean, that's just marketing. So you kind of let marketing do whatever marketing wants to do, and then you pull the reins back on them when they try to do it. So.
One last question for all of you in AI. Spin time forward a year from now when you're all back at Envision next year. Let's go in reverse order. Let's start, John, with you, if you don't mind. Where do you think your organization will be on a scale of 1 to 100, or where would you hope they would be?
Well, that's a tough question. It's hard to, I would say the most exposure we have with AI with our group that currently has it today is Teams meetings. So the folks that have Copilot within Teams meetings, and then they're sharing that content with the folks that were in the meeting, that's where a lot of that requests come, is, hey, that's really cool. I don't have to take notes in a meeting, or I don't have to do this. It's just going to send it to me. There's probably going to be a lot more growth from that avenue. I think with our marketing team assisting with proposals, there'll be probably more of an uptick there. And then also in our IT department, we leverage it for script assistance, I'll say. We ask Copilot to write a script for XYZ, but then always verify, right? So it's hard to base it. I think the demand as we continue to move forward is going to be greater and greater, but we also have to harness that so we can manage it as we grow into it.
Thanks. Jason?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that, other than probably the fact that I would like to see an uptick in it, because it's, if you're doing good with it, it's meant to improve your life and make you work smarter, not harder, and then do the things that you want to concentrate on and be more creative. For example, in our department, we have co-pilots. We do the same thing with Teams. We're doing the same thing with our BAs, our business analysts, are doing a lot of summarizations of things and just improving their lives altogether, right? So, yeah, not much to add to that.
Yeah, I'd say if we're at a 20 today, I expect us to be at about a 21 this time next year. Just trying to build out the really spending a lot of time engaging with users who maybe could benefit more from it, who just haven't really engaged with it. That's probably where I see the primary application in the coming year. Data classification is something we're still pretty immature on. So that's something that's going to have to take place before that. And again, we're not really interested in being on the bleeding edge. We're interested in using it where it's really gonna make a benefit to our employees and our product. So I don't see us investing a ton in the next year. If you would say 5 years, I would say, maybe somewhere in the 35 to 50 range. But yeah, it's gonna be a slower uptake for us, no doubt.
I think it's even going to be slower for banks. Banks are not known to jump on the newest technology when it arrives. So we kind of stay slow, steady behind the scenes. We'll try to track through. We have to find a real business case, least for it. So where we are now, I'm guessing we're probably going to be in about the same spot next year. Maybe a few more banks will jump onto it a little bit. I don't see a huge uptick until some of the big providers, the Fiservs, Jack Henry's, FISs of the world, come out with a solution and going, hey, you have this is what we have, this is how it works. Then we'll start looking at it.
Well, gentlemen, we're going to switch gears. Time's going fast, and so we're going to switch over to security. And so, no, you can stay in the same chair,
Not
Jay.
change-
No,
okay.
that's all right.
Should we turn them around and face these people?
Well, we got cameras facing this way, so I think we're okay. With the security landscape, I'd like to know your impression on, and Jason, maybe we'll start with you. Do you feel that the tools that you're using in security to protect your organization are staying up with the changing in the threat vectors?
Short answer, no. It's always going to evolve. They're always going to be one step ahead of us, I believe. So I just think no. As simple as that. If we could get to that point, I would sleep better at night. But I don't think we're ever going to get there. It's just your program has to be pretty diverse as to what you're using for tools, and it has to be complete. Don't negate or dismiss anything that's supposed to be part of the checklist. Of like NIST 800-171 or CMMC or whatever the framework is, 27001 is you really want to be able to achieve that, which just helps your overall security posture, as a whole. And that's really what, I'm sure all these companies here and everybody around here is always going to have a struggle with that. And it's always maintenance and it's always upkeep and it's a lot of training.
Let me add to that. I think it'd be important for our peers, our colleagues out here. Would you mind sharing maybe how much time you spend on a weekly, monthly basis around security-related items? And I'm going to ask everybody on the panel the same thing. But you know what? There's end-user training involved with security, right? There's managing, administrating security tools. Like you said, it's like staying up to date with what the tool is doing in the future, right, to stay with that. But any estimate of time that you or your team have to spend on security for the company?
Yeah, I would say I log, I log time against things, and my team does, and the whole IT team as a whole does. I would probably put myself at maybe 5 to 10 hours a week of actually doing security activities, or that could be considered security activities. It's meetings, it's looking at logs, it's the training, it's know before, putting together campaigns, whatever the case is. It's looking at servers. It's patch management and vulnerability management. All those types of things, just kind of cascade into time. And then, we pay somebody to watch our environment, an MSOC and an MDR service. So I interface with those guys on almost a weekly basis. And then, they also send us stuff to look at and to confirm, is this natural in your environment or is it something that you should be concerned about? So yeah, there's all types of activities that we're doing.
It's a big list. Thank you for that. John, maybe the same two questions for you. One, do you think the tools are staying up to date? And two, how much time do you and your technology team spend on security?
Well, they're sitting right over there, so that's probably a better question for them. But I would say security is like the king-size bed and covering it with a queen-size mat or blanket, right? So I mean, you feel like you're never comfortable. It's a vicious cycle, and I think it's just part of what we do. Sometimes it's things we're pushing for more automation in our environment, and also understanding where's our risks. One of the big things that we're trying to push is simple and secure. And what does that mean? Is minimize your exposure, which should minimize your risk. The amount of data you have out there, the amount of endpoints, the amount of servers you have, consolidating servers. You know, when new threats are coming out, there's zero-day vulnerabilities. Those are the hot and heavy items you have to patch right away. We have all this other legacy software that has its own vulnerabilities that we forget about. So in our environment, what we've tried to do is take a practical approach because it seems like all IT staffs run really lean. We also have, we leverage NCI for some of that security posturing. We also have a SOC as a service, but I think the automation piece is making sure that you have a patch schedule with your critical infrastructure and all your endpoints. And we have physical endpoints, we have virtual machines. It all adds to that entire thing you have to support and not be disruptive. So putting a time on it, one of the things that we've tried to express in our group is we just don't have a security person. So my feeling is that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility between IT and the rest of the company. And that's where we send out simulated emails and that education, that monthly education. But I think even within the own IT department, everybody has kind of their window or their area that they're kind of focusing on for security. And just being transparent with the group, it's a tough challenge. It is the whole thing like, what if something happens, right? What are we going to do? But it's just something we live with, and I don't think you're ever comfortable.
Yeah, thanks for those comments. Joel, do you want to touch on, again, tools? Are they staying up to date? And again, how much time you and your team put in? And then, Jay, I'm going to come to you and ask you to kind of wrap security and AI all together. So, Joel.
Yeah, as far as whether or not the tools are keeping up to date, I mean, for us, I don't know. Yes and no. I mean, we're a small to mid-sized business, so we find that there's a lot more. I mean, well, the blanket answer is no, right? It's obviously no. But for our application, you know, we find that there are so many basics that we can still get better at. We know that educating our end users is number one. You know, they're our most vulnerable point. So we don't feel like we've exhausted all those basics yet. So for me to say that they're not keeping up, well, I mean, we're not leveraging all of them yet anyway. You know, we're a rapidly growing company. And as far as how much time we spend, I probably spend about a quarter of my time on security or cybersecurity related items. I'm by no means the front lines. My team spends a lot more time than that on it. But we do, you know, everything really that was mentioned here. We also have on top of that a physical security team that meets, you know, every 6 to 8 weeks or so, and there's quite a bit of overlap there as well.
So, Jay, this morning you talked about threat actors having access to AI tools, right? And so you want to try to bring AI security, kind of wrap it up here?
Yeah. Yeah, the bad actors in the world have access to way more tools than we do to protect. They're inventing more tools than we are to protect against. It's not really a safe environment. We can't. Anybody that's comfortable in that security role and says, yeah, we got this, get rid of them, because they are not a security person. All the tools that you can possibly throw at it probably aren't going to be enough, and you have to have written incident response plans. I mean, write it out. This could happen. Have run through scenarios and on a repeated basis. Make sure that you're covering everything going, have we thought of everything? Are we going to be able to recover from this? And it's not a matter of preventing it. It's when it happens, how fast can we recover and how can we limit the damage? It's going to happen at some point and you have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, the whole idea of incident command, right? Tabletop exercises and all of that.
There's no there's no better security for yourself than preparation and not sleeping. That helps.
Well, gentlemen, our time is coming to the end. I want to personally thank all four of you for taking time today to not only be here at our conference, but to be part of our Leaders in IT panelists. So I appreciate the candid, open responses and so forth. And so where's Mr. Brady Dykema at?
All right, thanks again, gentlemen. Great job.